Leinster have signed Reiko Ioane. The All Black centre's shock transfer from Auckland to Dublin comes hot on the heels of Leinster destroying current URC champions Glasgow 52 points to nil in a European Cup quarter-final, a performance inspired by their last marquee signing, Jordie Barrett. These events have set social media ablaze and reignited an old debate. Is it fair that Leinster are able to sign these marquee players, and should they be forced to adhere to a salary cap? To answer that question, let's take a look at some rugby salary caps across the globe and understand if they solve problems or merely create more. To start off with, let's recap what the point of a salary cap is. According to the English Premiership website, the point of salary caps is to ensure the financial viability of all clubs, to control inflationary pressures on clubs' costs, to provide a level playing field for clubs, to ensure a competitive league, and to ensure that clubs can compete in European competitions. Now, we can have a debate about how effective the Premiership salary cap has been in achieving those goals, but since we're in England, let's start with their salary cap first. The Premiership salary cap stands at £6.4 million. However, there are multiple exemptions and credits that clubs can apply to pay considerably more than this. English clubs are allowed £600,000 worth of extra credits for homegrown players. They are also allowed £400,000 worth of credits for England internationals and another £400,000 worth of credits for long-term injuries. This brings the total cap of what they're legally allowed to spend on player salaries to £7.8 million. And then on top of that, they're allowed one marquee signing whose salary is not captured under the salary cap, and they can pay this player however much they like. And that's why it is speculated that current league leaders Bath are spending over £8 million on player salaries. And examples of clubs spending well over what the theoretical cap is are not unique to just England. Let's talk about France. The salary cap in the top 14 is €10.7 million. However, the most recent annual report from LNR disclosing club spending shows that 50% of top 14 clubs are spending over €10.7 million on player salaries. And the reason for this is, just like England, France's salary cap has lots of credits and exemptions that clubs can apply.
Hey, so if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. I'm really hoping to get to 5,000 YouTube subscribers by the end of this rugby season, and I would love it if you were one of them. Okay, back to the show.
The most prominent of these is supplying players to the France national squad. For every player that a top 14 team supplies to the France squad, they get extra credit on top of the salary cap. And this is a big reason why Toulouse, the current French champions, spent €13.4 million on player salaries last season. I think now is a good time to talk about the difference between salaries and budgets. As I said, Toulouse spent €13.4 million on player salaries, but their overall spend last season was €62.5 million. And that means they're spending the best part of €50 million on things other than player salaries. For context, that's about €20 million more than the next top club in France, Bordeaux. And what they spend that extra money on includes things like academies, things like coaches' salaries, and things like women's teams. So what we're able to see is if these hyper-rich clubs have money to spend on rugby, they will find a way to spend it, whether that's on salaries or on other areas. Now let's talk about the URC. And as everybody knows, the URC does not operate a salary cap. And the reason for this is the URC is made up of 6 different nations with 3 different currencies. It is virtually impossible to apply a salary cap that would be fair and equitable across all these different economies. However, just because there's no overall salary cap in the URC doesn't mean that there are no salary caps within the league. The 4 Welsh regions are currently operating to a salary cap of £4.5 million. Now, a lot of people think that that £4.5 million is the centralised funding that the regions receive from the WRU. It is not. £4.5 million is the salary cap the regions have agreed with the WRU. And on top of the 4.5, they also get 2 marquee players whose salaries are not captured under the cap. South Africa also operates a salary cap. Theirs is £85 million. Now, of all the salary caps that we've spoken about so far, South Africa's is perhaps the less clear-cut. Speaking to people who know South African rugby, I'm told that that salary cap is topped up by the union, to somewhere around 120 to 130 million rand. There may also be allowances for marquee players, but this isn't listed anywhere publicly. If anybody does know more about the salary cap in South Africa, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to be educated more on this topic. Scotland and Italy do not operate salary caps, but they only have 2 teams each, so a salary cap is somewhat unnecessary. And then of course there's Ireland, who as we know do not operate a salary cap either. What Ireland does have is hybrid contracts for its top internationals. What this means is the union picks up a large chunk of the wages for the top Irish players. And as of today, the vast majority of those top players are playing for Leinster. And this is where a lot of the anger from fans comes from. The discrepancy between Leinster and the other 3 Irish provinces is starting to become problematic. Now, the IRFU are starting to bring in legislation aimed at redressing that balance. And if you'd like to learn more about that legislation, I can highly recommend a podcast by my good friend Caelan Scully. I'll link to it in the pop-up banner up in the top right-hand corner of the screen. I highly recommend giving it a watch, it's very informative. Elsewhere around the world, Super Rugby does not operate a salary cap, neither does Japan. But Japan controls its club's spending in a very different way. The Japanese league divides players up into 3 categories. Category A players are players who are eligible to play for the Japanese national team. Category B players are foreigners who are not yet capped by their home nations, i.e. they may become eligible to play for the Japanese national team. And Category C players are foreign capped internationals. That's your likes of your Cheslin Colbys, your Aaron Smiths and your Peter Steph du Toits. And Japanese clubs are limited to just 3 Category C players per squad. And what's interesting about that is that's kind of what's happening at Leinster at the moment. They have a squad which is mostly homegrown players. They have in the past brought over uncapped foreigners who went on to play for Ireland, and they have a limited number of capped foreign internationals, which I think is interesting. Anyway, I hope you found that video, if nothing else, thought-provoking. If you did, please leave those thoughts in the comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.